Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Runge and I am doing some video blogs about nutrition for cardiac rehab patients. And one particular topic of interest is vitamin K and how it can interact with anticoagulants, which are a really popular drug for cardiac rehab. One of the reasons that this topic is really important to talk about is because the messages that we get from healthcare providers are not always consistent. There was a study done in 2015, and over 300 warfarin users, which is a popular anticoagulant, were asked about what kind of recommendations they'd received from healthcare professionals about vitamin K intake. And you can see on the graph here, 66% had been told to avoid vitamin K altogether, while another 22% had no education on the topic at all. So only 10% had the message that we're kind of trying to spread today about balancing your vitamin K intake from day to day. And we can't really avoid vitamin K altogether. It's in a lot of different foods, and it's also a really important vitamin for our body, our ability for our blood to clot, and it's also involved in bone health. The reason that vitamin K intake is so important for people who are taking an anticoagulant is that most common anticoagulants like warfarin and Coumadin are actually vitamin K antagonists. So the vitamin K is naturally trying to help your blood clot, whereas the anticoagulants are trying to make your blood thinner. So they're kind of natural enemies, but there is room for coexistence if we balance our intake from day to day. There's a very common test that's used to tell you how fast your blood is clotting, and that's called the INR, or the International Normalized Ratio. And for people that are taking an anticoagulant, the healthcare professionals like to see your INR between 2 and 3. You can see here that an INR of less than 2 means your blood is a little bit too thick and you kind of run a risk of clotting. And a INR higher than 3, your blood is actually too thin, and that becomes an issue for bleeding risk. So the key for kind of balancing your INR, balancing your anticoagulant medication is 2 levels. To first balance your vitamin K intake from day to day, so get about the same amount each day. And second, to have your INR checked periodically to see if you need to make any adjustments to your medication. The recommendation for daily vitamin K intake for women is 90 micrograms and for men is 120 micrograms, which doesn't mean much if you don't know how much are in typical foods. So the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics kind of likes to separate foods out into high vitamin K foods, moderate vitamin K foods, and low vitamin K foods, where the high would be anything over 100 micrograms, the moderate would be 25 to 100 micrograms, and the low would be 25 or less. So for a couple examples here, you might have heard if you're trying to watch your vitamin K intake, you should avoid kale altogether. Kale is notoriously very high in vitamin K. I kind of remember that just because it starts with the K. Vitamin K and kale go together. So the 1 cup of cooked kale has 1,060 micrograms of vitamin K, which is about 10 days worth for an adult meal. If you're someone that really enjoys kale, this is not to say that you have to cut it out altogether, but maybe mix a half cup of kale with a half cup of another kind of lettuce for salads, or be committed to eating the same amount of kale each day. Another example of a relatively high vitamin K food is spinach. Spinach is a little bit lower than kale, but I just got a cup of spinach in a bowl here to kind of show portion-wise how much a cup would be. So that here pretty well covers a normal-sized dinner plate, is a cup of spinach. And I also have a few examples that would fall into the moderate vitamin K category. So we have a half cup of broccoli, which is 45 micrograms, a half cup of asparagus, which is 72 micrograms, and 3 ounces of tuna, which provides 37 micrograms of vitamin K. In general, foods like breads and cereal, dairy and dairy products, and meats won't have much, if at all, vitamin K in them. So kind of trying to focus on the other foods that you have commonly in your diet to see where you're at and where you can go with balancing your vitamin K. So keeping track of the vitamin K in your foods from a day-to-day basis can be kind of tricky. What I would recommend would just be to track your normal diet for 2 or 3 days and add up and see how much vitamin K you're currently getting. From there, maybe it's just a matter of adding in 1 or 2 medium vitamin K foods, or maybe having a small spinach salad with your dinners. USDA has a really great resource called the Super Tracker, which can help you keep track of your foods and will actually tell you how much of every single nutrient you're getting each day. So that might be a good place to start if you want to see how much vitamin K you're getting currently. Also, vitamin K isn't a necessary component of a food nutrition label, but there is a database through the USDA called the USDA National Nutrient Database that will have vitamin K content for any kind of food that you're wondering about. It's important to note that if you're going to dramatically either increase or decrease your vitamin K intake, you're going to want to talk to your healthcare provider about that, because you may need to get your INR checked more frequently in that time frame so that your medication can be adjusted. And it's always a good idea to kind of keep your healthcare provider in the loop about what you're doing with either supplements or your diet in general, just in case anything might have the possibility of interacting with medications. So to summarize, we still do need vitamin K in our diet, and it's okay for you to eat some of your favorite vitamin K foods. The key message is to get a consistent intake from day to day, and hopefully this video will help get you started on the right track.